Welcome back everybody. This week we're at Tsukuba for the Human Comedy Endurance Race. And we're going to be using a tune and Strat that'll hopefully make this a cakewalk. Our car of choice for today is of course the Mazda MX5 race car. Yeah, I know. Like I had a choice, right? Turns out though, I kinda love this car. And by adding a custom rear wing and a bit of tuning, I do believe we've managed to walk away with something stable and effective, as it's really good at putting down power and can pull lap times in the 57 second area. This overall leads us to a 58 lap victory, with potential for 59 if I was a bit more consistent, or say a better driver took over. So here's the tune I've settled on. We're running racing medium tyres. That, combined with the high downforce and tight suspension, should give us good corner exits, as losing grip there was where I was sacrificing a majority of my time. And that's about it. So with that, we're off to the track. Right, and the race is away. So let's see what this little MX5 is truly capable of. Now its first goal is to get to the front. Fuel saving be damned. Well, almost damned. Fuel map 1 is going to get us 12 laps. What we need is 13. So minimal short shifting, and that should be enough to get us there. Other than that, it's foot to the floor. And once we get to the front, well honestly, that changes nothing. We're keeping that foot to the floor, because we're on a mission today. And what we're really interested in right now is fast lap times. We've got to make as much use of this dry track as possible before the weather turns and it slows us down. Coming up to the final corner of the first lap, and we make our move on 11, easily completing the overtake and putting him behind us, completing our opening lap in a sub-minute time. And until we hop off these racing medium tyres, from now on, all laps are going to be sub 1 minute times. And it's only halfway through this lap that we find our next opponent, getting an excellent run on him, and we make much better use of the track limits. Into the second lap, and we've spotted 2 more targets. And after spending the next few corners closing the distance on him, it's finally time for us to make a move. Come on, move. I'm on a mission here. Usually, I'm a bit more tactful, but as I said, we're on a mission. And AI, they don't have souls. So, with those 2 cars behind us, it's time to soldier on towards the next group of 3. Now the thing I love about this track is it's so small, no matter where you are, there are always cars to keep it interesting. What I really look at focusing on is getting past him without breaking my stride, as soon as you get stuck behind some of these cars, it costs you so much in time, and I find it much better to just aim for the gap and keep the foot planted. I just trust that the stability of this car means it's all going to work out for me. One of these days I'm going to be wrong, but it's not today. As we enter the 5th lap, we also enter 5th place. We don't have many opponents left to check off our list. By the time that we come around to the long back straight, we're right behind 4th, ending up in a straight line drag. Come on, little MX5. As we slowly crawl in front, taking the position, and with that, we've just got those podium spots left to go. Exactly 1 lap later, and we find ourselves in a repeat of the situation from the previous lap, as we close in on 3rd and 2nd at the long back straight. Only this time, they don't nearly put up the same amount of fight, easily moving into the bronze medal position and making our way towards silver. Boo! Works every time. Now we're in 2nd place, with just 1 position left to go. As we roll our way round onto the 9th lap, finally we make our way into first place. On top of that, we also begin our best lap of the entire race. Even if we start off by having a few back markers in our way, which we've got to navigate through. Luckily, they barely cross into our lines, hardly slowing us at all. And after these two are behind us, it's a pretty straight shot all the way to the end of the lap. If you're not capable of hitting these sort of lap times, honestly, don't stress about it. See, by the end of the race, we're over 3 minutes ahead, which means there is an absolute abundance of time which can be eaten up before the AI get anywhere remotely close to you. So honestly, it's better just to drive at your own pace and not make mistakes. Coming around the final corner now, bringing an end to our first 57-second lap. And also noticing that the track is not as sunny as it was when we started. But that doesn't mean we're going to have to worry about rain anytime soon. What we do have to worry about is back markers getting in our way and slowing us down when we've only got a few laps left before we've got to visit the pits. And as our tyre wear and fuel reaches its bottom limits, I think it might finally be time to actually make that pit stop. So at the end of the long straight, on the 13th lap, we pull over to the right, eventually conceding that we've got to make a stop. Okay, now that we've stopped, we want to put on a fresh set of medium tyres, and we want to fully load up that tank with fuel before we get back out on the track, ending up back in 6th place. That means we've got to get all the way to the front again. And this time, instead of 13 laps, we want to make 14 before we go back into the pits. Because by my calculations, that's going to be the perfect time to switch over to either wet or intermediate tyres, and we'll cover those a little bit later. Not long after our hunt begins, we find our first target, easily flying past him on the outside, but it turns out he's just a back marker. The hunt continues. But it's not long after that, as we're coming along to the start-finish straight, we find two opponents in the pits. It's not the most exciting of ways to overtake people, but we'll take it. And then another lap later, we find third, also in the pits, putting us back in our podium spot, in what is the most uneventful way possible. But finally, we actually do meet cars on the track, overtaking second place, who's stuck behind a back marker. And now, we've just got that one position to go again. Oh, come on now. Turns out, first it's decided to enter the pits, giving us an anticlimactic end to our battle for first. I guess my only choice now is to take out this frustration on all the back markers we're going to be passing. Ooh, pop-up headlights. It's quite a good thing that we have a lot of back markers to overtake, because we're never going to be leaving first position again for the rest of this race. Meaning, we need something to do to keep it interesting. We come around to the 26th lap, and finally, it started to rain, meaning things could get a bit slidey soon. Oh, excuse me, coming through here. At this point of the race, the rain is quite light. It barely affects the tyres that we're on. So staying out on the track for a little bit longer is not really a worry. Now we wanted to make 14 laps out of this set of tyres, and that takes us to the end of lap 27. The rain isn't too heavy yet, so we can persevere, getting round to the end of that lap, before fuel and tyres are yet again at an end. Meaning, it's time to revisit those pits. Now that we're back for our second stop, it's time to switch over to some intermediate tyres. Now, this is where the choice is up to you. You can go with wets or intermediates, and both have their benefits. At the beginning of this section, the rain is not going to be too hard, meaning you can get by on intermediates. But there are a few laps later on where it's going to be very heavy, and wets are going to be more stable to control if you're not too confident in the rain. Now I've decided to go with intermediates for the sole reason that in really wet weather they're more fun and slidey. That's literally as far as my strategy went with this. And here you are listening to it. Now for this stint, we're going to be wanting to stay out until the end of the 46th lap. Which means our fuel has got to last a lot longer than normal. So I've set my fuel map to 3. Now the estimated lap counter is telling me, the same thing it'll tell you, that we're not going to make it. But don't worry, once that rain starts coming in really heavy, we're going to drop it down to 6. Because all that extra power is going to be wasted by sliding the tyres. And that'll buy us enough fuel to get to the end of the 46th lap, before we revisit those pits for the final time. By the 40th lap, that rain is really starting to come down heavy. See? I told you it was fun, right? And just to note something about this back straight, sometimes I like to switch the fuel map back to 3, just so we can build up some power for this high speed section, switching back to 6 at the end of the straight when we're going fast enough. We have to spend the next few laps feathering the car around the track due to the weather conditions, as this is one of the most dangerous sections of the race. Beaten only by the final stint that we're going to be doing, and it doesn't help when I make mistakes, like pulling in front of another car in wet weather. Luckily, managed to survive it, although I'm feeling a bit ridiculous. We continue to make our way around the track in this horrible weather, eventually starting a battle with the back marker. Where we notice dry lines are starting to form on the track. Now this is exactly what we were waiting for, because we're going to be using those in our final stint. The key question is, when to switch tyres. We want that track to be dry, but we want enough time left on the clock to actually make use of these lines. I've decided that's the 46th lap. So as it rolls around, it's time for us to head in for our final stop. Ow. Okay, now that we've come to a stop, it's time to switch back to racing medium tyres. And make sure we've got enough fuel in the tank for 12 laps, or what we assume will make 12 laps. And as soon as that's done, we're heading back out, and straight onto those drier lines, so that we don't spin in circles as soon as we put the foot down. Now that I'm out, we have the potential to run incredibly fast lap times yet again, but the margin of error is very small, where one mistake is going to put us off the track. So I'm deliberately running a little bit slower than usual, having a couple of seconds per lap, but guaranteeing that I'm not going to be visiting the grass. But as the track begins to get drier, the confidence will increase, the lap times will decrease, and by the end of the race, we'll be running in the low 58s to high 57s again. With the sun coming out, the track has dried up fantastically. And this is really important, because it means the areas we can go to avoid back markers has increased, because if you meet one at the wrong position when it's wet, there's not too much you can do about it. Now, however, we're back to flying past them as if they were stopped. And it doesn't take long before we're on the 58th lap, flying home towards our victory. And as we enter the final long corner, we could be in a position to beat our fastest lap. Except, no, we've run out of fuel. Rolling across the line for an incredibly comfortable victory. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. As usual, if you found it remotely useful or enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment or subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Bye.